You are now tuning in to the Bodybuilding Lifestyle Podcast, the #1 source for unfiltered truth in bodybuilding with your host, Elon Muskular. The Bodybuilding Lifestyle Podcast is sponsored by Elon Muskular Private Coaching. There's a huge issue with online coaching today. Cookie cutter plans, unattentive coaches, and an industry saturated with misinformation. If you're looking for a bodybuilding coach that will be on your ass about getting results and make sure you tick all the boxes every day with daily check-ins, unlimited text access, and quarterly video consults and progress reports, then Elon Muskular Coaching is for you. All the guys on Team Muskular are my personal friends, and I'm proud to build a relationship with every client in order to best hold them accountable to their goals. If this sounds interesting to you, reach out to me to book a free discovery call to see if coaching is right for you. Now let's get right into the episode. What is up, guys, and welcome to episode 14 of the Bodybuilding Lifestyle Podcast. Here we have Aaron Burke, BuiltbyAB on Instagram. And I'm really excited to have Aaron here because he has a super interesting story. He's a bodybuilder from the UK who actually lives in China and moved there. I don't even know why, but now he's making big waves over there, doing seminars for, Chinese people and helping bring up bodybuilding over there. And he has made a really incredible transformation over the past few years. I've been following him on Instagram, and the guy has absolutely blown up. So I want to get into how that happened, a little bit about the practical application behind that, and learn his story. So what's up, Aaron? Welcome to the podcast.
How you doing, buddy? All right. First, let me say congratulations on having probably the best Instagram, YouTube handle there is in the world. Is your actual real name Elon, or did you just take it?
Yeah, my name is Elon, and I was thinking,
so lucky.
I was thinking about what kind of name do I want to put how do I want to put myself out there, right? So my last name is Strutzovsky, so nobody's gonna remember that.
No one can say that, bro.
Yeah, exactly. So then I was like, my friend actually called me Elon Muskular one time, and I was like, that's actually so cool. I feel like people will
so good.
That.
It's such a good name. I'm so jealous. I'm so jealous. I remember when one of your first comments popped up in the one of the Muscle Nomads comment sections, and I was like, "Who? What? Elon?" And I read it. I had to read it 2 or 3 times, and I was like, "What a genius! What a name!" Yeah, congratulations, you win that one.
Well, it's not. It would be weird for me if my name wasn't Elon, and then people are calling me that, because then it's like what?
Even if it wasn't Elon, it's still a cool name.
Yeah, I guess. But people refer to you and they send me emails and stuff. And I feel like it would be weird if it wasn't my actual name. You know what I mean?
That's just an added bonus, right?
Yeah. All right. So let's jump into it, man. How did you get let's talk about the move to China first. What made you move to China? How many years have you been living there? And were you really into bodybuilding before you went there?
So my background in England was very sport-based. So I was super into rugby for most of my life. Played rugby from a very young age. So that certainly sort of gave me some good sort of thick foundations, I guess. Into my teens, I started getting into martial arts and things like that, dabbling with a little bit of boxing and a little bit of jiu-jitsu in my later years, and lots of Wing Chun as well. So I was always big into martial arts, and ever since I was a real young kid, it's all I watched. All I watched was Bruce Lee, Jet Li, Jackie Chan stuff all the time. So maybe there was some subconscious thing there to look more into China. And actually, I remember when I was about 11 or 12, maybe early teens, and I remember I was pestering my mum for months and months and months about sending me to China to join a Shaolin retreat for 2 months. I'm 13 years old. I just wanted to be a ninja. I was just I need to learn the ways of the Shaolin. I watched Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon way too many times, and I had tried leaping from branch to branch like that way too many times and failed miserably. But I was really obsessed with martial arts and stuff like that. And I don't know, and the sort of the culture, the things, you know, like that, you know, the nice sort of fantasy kung fu era of all those movies. I don't know, I was really into it. So I was, you know, on the online one day and came across this like Shaolin academy where you could go over there and like live with the Shaolin for 3 months and live in a shack and eat a bowl of rice a day, Kill Bill style, you know. And I remember pestering her for months and months and months about going over to this thing, and obviously, you know, pipe dream. And so I just kind of forgot about it. But from a young age, I always had that kind of fascination with China and the culture and martial arts and things like that. And then many years goes by and something else happened, which got me here. I'll get to it. So most of my background is all in rugby. I was a big sports guy. Sort of into my teens, I started turning into a gym rat. And, you know, the typical gym rat, you know, going to the gym and doing the typical whatever bro split you can find, like probably an Arnold blueprint or something like that. Something with way too much volume for me. That was just kicking my ass. But as a beginner, you get some pretty decent newbie gains, right? So I had no idea about nutrition and things like that, how to really train, how to really structure training. I was just purely a gym rat, and then I go and play rugby on the weekends, get beard up with the boys afterwards. And that was my life year after year after year, all the way up till sort of early 20s when I started taking training a little bit more seriously and started learning from some other coaches via the rugby team. We had some pretty good coaches on board. So I started dabbling and getting online, doing a lot more studying about the more intricate parts of training, recovery, and how to structure, you know, off-season and pre-season and all this kind of stuff. Training for rugby still at this point, but, you know, I wanted to be big. So yeah, I was a bit of a gym rat back then for sure.
So I have a question about the martial arts guys. When you saw them as a kid, like, did you think like these guys are fucking jacked? Because I remember thinking, if I could just look like Bruce Lee, like in that movie, you know what I mean, where he's super jacked, that would be like all that I ever need in my life, you know? Did you look at them and think that they were muscular, or did you kind of know that they were? Yeah.
Yeah, you see like Bruce Lee, and what was it, like Fist of Fury? He's got like a Wolverine slash across his belly with ripped abs, and he's just shredded. And I think that's probably the first time I ever saw a six-pack, and I was like, what the hell? I want to look like that. You know, so back then, yeah, for sure, Bruce Lee was like, he was the jacked guy. And then, you know, the action era was going down, it was more like, oh, what's this movie? You know, and you end up watching The Commando, and then Rocky and Rambo, and you see Stallone and Arnold and all these guys as well. And you're like, they're all the actors were just bigger and bigger and better and jacked all the way through, you know. So yeah, definitely they were, as far as movies are concerned and actors, huge role models of how I kind of wanted to look. I guess back then though, like at the time I was still a kid. I didn't really know how to look that way. I knew that I'd go to the gym, throw some weights around, you know, eat mum's home cooking, and I'll get big. And that's pretty much all I knew at the time. But yeah, like those physiques, I was definitely drawn to that kind of big jacked look for sure. I wasn't interested in like, I don't know, other kinds of physiques, put it that way.
So at what point did you decide to take bodybuilding more seriously and do competitions and stuff like that? Like, was that after you already were living in Asia?
Yeah, very late. So right before I came to China, I tore my ACL unknowingly. I just thought I had a really like a tear, but nothing crazy. And then in my first year in China, I was kicking a ball around with some friends, and it just popped and went. So I went to get MRIs and stuff done like that, and ended up having a full ACL replacement surgery and a big repair on my meniscus as well. So that set me back. At that time, I was lifting, but not lifting like with any intention of bodybuilding. Just lifting because all the way through my 20s, I kind of, since the age of like 16, 17, all the way up through, I was always a little bit bigger than the average Joe. I was quite thick, stocky lad. And I liked being big. I liked being a little bit bigger than the average guy. So I always kept training for that reason. And then, the obsession kicks in, and then you get a little bit of bigorexia, and then you need to be a little bit bigger, Then the new guy joins the rugby team who's bigger than you. So now you need to be bigger than him. So I was always enjoyed being the big one. And yeah, that put a massive end to that. So at the time I was just like a stocky rugby guy. Went to China, didn't play rugby in China. I made the decision at that point to just try new things and move over here and see what happens. Did the surgery, and then during my surgery recovery, actually it was probably before the surgery. Yeah, before the surgery, because I was training pretty hard in the gym before the surgery, because a buddy of mine called Anthony Capone, an actual direct relative of Capone as well, surprisingly enough. He was a big bodybuilding fan and coached a couple of bodybuilders back in his hometown in New York. And we were working in the same office in China. And, we were good friends there. And he said to me, we went to the gym together a few times. And, back then I was just like a little, natty gym rat. And he was like, "You've got potential, man." He's like, "You've got really good genetics. You gain muscle, really, you respond very quick when you hit the gym after having a long break." He could, I don't know, I guess he just had the eye for it. And he said, what do you know about bodybuilding and stuff? And I was like, I think I can tell you two names. I think the two names I could think of was probably Arnold. No, three names actually I remember from big magazines: Arnold, Ronnie, and Jay. And that was it. I was like, that's all I know about bodybuilding. I know those three guys are bodybuilders, and Arnold, was the most famous, and he's a movie star, blah, blah, blah.
UK guy, you didn't know Dorian?
Dude, this is it, sir. And this is exactly what he said. He was like, have you never heard of Dorian Yates? And I was like, who the hell is Dorian Yates? And he's like, oh my God, get over here right now. And we just sat there on YouTube for 2 hours straight in the office. And he's like, giving me the whole intro and bio to Dorian Yates. And I'm like, holy shit, I didn't know we had any good bodybuilders in England. And that's where my bodybuilding education started. And this was late, man. I was like 20, what was I, 25, 26, something like that, really late. And I just started, I was okay, this is pretty cool. I started looking into it, and I just got obsessed really, really quickly. I was just a full YouTube warrior. Everything I could possibly absorb about bodybuilding, especially from Dorian and the training sort of thing as well. I think one of the first things I watched was the Blood and Guts series, and I was like, oh, this is proper training. I like this. And I think that came across really well for me, because I remember when I was just a gym rat, without knowing, we always used to push ourselves really hard. We would be grinding out to failure. We're probably doing way too much and way too often, but it was always hard training, no fluff work. So the Dorian stuff really, what's the word? Resonated. So I really enjoyed that. So I got stuck into that training straight away. And that was it. From then on, the rest is just, every day obsessed on the computer, learning about as much bodybuilding stuff, history, people, and just everything, training, dieting, everything. I just got super obsessed with all of it. And that's when I started really getting into bodybuilding and training and eating with the intent of possibly being a bodybuilder. And that was only 6 years ago. But even back then, I was still a very basic beginner. I had no idea what I was doing. It was, what it's like for these young guys that are looking at bodybuilding stuff now. There's so many sources of information. They have no idea what's right, what's wrong, what works, what doesn't work, this, that, and the other, blah, blah, blah. So it was just trial and error all the time and just enjoying the gym. And it wasn't until 2019 in June where I got invited by a buddy of mine, Rocco, who dragged me over to Thailand. He said, look, you've got to come over to Thailand and you've got to meet these guys. There's a big gym open in there at the Muscle Factory. Lee Priest coach Andy Cunningham is going to be there. Lee Chul who was at the Olympia this year or last year. He was there with another bodybuilder called Shin, another Korean Mr. Universe guy called Big Ali from the Middle East, giant of a man, a couple of the Thai pros, Bart, who runs the place, and a guy called Vigorous Steve, who's now my coach. And he said, you just need to come on holiday, enjoy a holiday, but come and hit the gym a few times and meet these guys and try and join in with this little training camp they've got going on. And yeah, that was the match on the fire. That was the fuel on the fire. So I was just enjoying lifting before that. Met those guys and I was like, okay, I want to be a bodybuilder now. And that was it. So from there, it was, okay, Steve, I'm going to hire you. I want you to be my coach. Let's do it all properly. Let's get this stuff nailed. And from there, it's been great. It's just nothing but upwards.
I find it really interesting. And like, this is something that I really wanted to talk to you about. Like just that I find it interesting when people have like a moment or like a, time in their life when things completely change, and they go in a different, maybe not a different direction, but they start to take things seriously and try to actually reach their full potential in whatever they're doing. It seems like before that point, you were kind of like drifting along, like trying to kind of like find something that made you feel like you could really like fit in there and do it. And then when you had that experience, it kind of made you like, I've been following you since pretty much then, because I was following Vigorous Steve. And I met him too in Bangkok, super great guy. And then you after that, I started following you after like the few posts that you guys did together. And I just saw you going from like pretty much normal guy to like completely in the identity of a bodybuilder and just doing everything that it takes, like pretty much maybe like not overnight, but shortly after. Could you talk about that mindset shift and like what really made you want to dedicate so much to bodybuilding, and change your life like that?
Yeah, I think there's two very pivotal. Well, I can't even talk. There's two very important times in my life where I've had those big life-changing kind of moments or periods of time which have set me on a much better path. And one of them was a year or two before that. I think it was about a full year before that. Yeah, it was a year before I went to Thailand. And me and some buddies of mine, Eric and Anthony, and we went over to Japan. We had a couple of friends there, and who wanted to start a gaming company, a gaming business, starting with a board game. And he hit big on Bitcoin. And, it was like said, we're all going to quit our jobs and we're going to go and move to Japan and live like kings and set up this business. And we're going to put it on, GoFundMe or something like that. Or what was it? Indiegogo or something. And we're going to be, overnight success was the dream. So we were all sold because we were all kind of in this, like, I don't know, not in a dark place. We were all just very, very bored and getting very complacent with our lives here. And we all just decided, right, that's just sometimes in life, you just have to drop everything. You have to risk it all. And you never know what will happen, right? And the worst case scenario, you just go back to where you were at the start and try again. But unless you put some things on the line and risk some things, you're not going to gain anything, right? So this is the kind of mindset we had. And we did it. And while we were there, the business itself, like, completely flopped for a few different reasons, but that's beside the point. The trip itself and the people I was with was a very life-changing one. And I put it down to, am I allowed to talk about drugs, recreational drugs?
Yeah, I talked about them on a podcast before. I've also had my share in that kind of stuff. So yeah, go for it.
Yeah. Well, this is something I'm quite, I don't want to say passionate about, but I'm very, well, I know 100% that it definitely changed my life. But we experimented a lot with some LSD, and I had some, and it wasn't like, go to a rave and party on acid and get, and cry your eyes out with laughter all night long. We had a couple of nights like that, but for the most part, we were very much really trying to get super focused and trying to get some clarity. We were all very sort of self-aware people and looking for something that a bit different from it than the typical party aspects. because, you know, it's an amazing, good, fun experience, but there's so much more to be had from it. And so we experimented anyway, and long story short, met some really amazing people over there that kind of were just a nice influence on just life in general, you know, about just how to be a good person, and, you know, and just how to enjoy your life and forget about all the nonsense and blah, blah, blah. And it kind of gave me this like filter, and I could, we did it a few times and had some moments of clarity where things just kind of made sense afterwards. You come out of it, you know, 8 hours later or whatever, you have a good night's sleep, you wake up in the morning, and you just have like these moments of clarity, and you realize so much of the crap that you were worried about just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. It's just fog. And what it did was just kind of gave me this filter to just filter out things that do not matter and leave behind nothing but the real priorities that I should be focusing on to improve my life in all aspects. So that trip itself, it was over the space of like 4 months with some really good friends, and that really changed me. So when I came back to China after that, I was 100%, in my mind, 100% different. And I was ultra focused on just everything in general. At that point, I had started doing a bit of coaching online, helping some people with the knowledge that I did have from just my own studies and things like that, and a bit of practice and trial and error. So I decided to help a few friends and start the coaching thing, and dabble in the supplements business as well. Just normal supplements, you know, your proteins and creatines and things like that, just as a secondary source of income. And that whole year was just very hard work. But I was just super focused, and I realized that I was being like this and just working hard was making me feel really good. And I was getting the rewards from that, and everything was showing for it. And I came back as well, and I got engaged as well to who now is my wife. And I just figured out who the priorities are, who are the important people you need to focus on, what are the things you really need to focus on and make happen. And it was all of these things. And it kind of all funneled into what seemed to be another pivotal. I can't say the word. Pivotal. I'm trying to add in an extra few letters for some reason. This pivotal moment of when Rocco contacted me and said, we need to go to China, you need to go to Thailand, you need to meet these guys. And when I met them, and, you know, they were very encouraging, and they really I think I just needed a bit of reassurance, and that this is a genuine possibility. Because I know, you know, there's probably a lot of people that want to be bodybuilders that maybe can't, from maybe a genetic point of view, or they can, but it's going to take a long time, and, you know, blah, blah, blah. So just having a little bit of reassurance and guidance from those guys over the space of like 2 weeks in Thailand was, yeah, that's all I was like, it filled up my inspiration, motivation bottle and more. The people I met there were just such good people. They were so informative. They taught me a lot in a couple of weeks. Just training with these guys and being in that environment, the Muscle Factory gym in Thailand, if you haven't gone there, go, well, you've been there. But for people who haven't gone there, do it. It's really a different experience than a lot of gyms. And it's very, very cool. And you find yourself getting very much just in the zone there in a very good way, very fast. I was there all day, mate. I was there all day. I was training. I'd do my training session. I was just hanging around the gym, eat my meals because the gym provided all the meals. I was just watching the Koreans train, and then I watched the Thai guys train, and I was just, you know, handing them dumbbells, changing plates for them, and just being there, being involved, and just watching and learning as much as I could. And it was so good. It was so good. And it just really lit a fire in my belly. And then I, you know, had a good meeting with Steve, and we spoke about, you know, what directions to move in if it's something I want to take seriously. And that was it. I was fixed, and I was on the right track, and I felt confident. I felt good. I came out of a really good holiday, a nice period of rest, and felt like I had filled in a lot of blank areas before. I felt before there was a lot of gaps and a lot of blanks and a lot of misinformation. And that brief trip there really ticked all the boxes, filled the gaps, and set me in the right direction. So that was a big that was it. That was basically from that trip. I was like, yeah, I'm going to do this and I'm going to be good at it.
That's an awesome story, man. That's exactly the
Sorry, I
story.
rambled for like
No,
so long.
it's okay. I just, the first like episode or a few episodes that I did, I listened to them back when doing the timestamps, and I was like, I talk too much. Like they,
Oh, really?
if people want to listen to me, they can listen to my videos, but like when it's a podcast, I want to try to let the person talk, you know what I mean? So they can get to know the person that I have as a guest, you know what I mean? But
I just like, it's like these stories, it brings back all the memories, and then you start thinking about all the small details, and you want to start talking about all the small details. But just tell me to shut up and ask a question. Just butt in at any time, because I'll ramble.
Okay. Well, I want to dig into like a few things that you talked about, because obviously a lot of really interesting topics that we could go a little bit deeper on.
Sure.
In terms of LSD, like it really is a great drug to change your perspective. And I think that the way that you guys did it was the way that people should do it. I don't think that it should be something that should be used in like a party setting or something like that, because just the way that it affects the brain, it's not really even the best drug for that kind of situation. I mean, it could be positive, but that's not what it's being used for, like clinically, you know what I mean? Like people are like nowadays in the US, they're doing a lot of experiments with LSD and psilocybin and talk therapy. So like people will want to change their life because they're very depressed or they have PTSD or something, and they'll go talk to a therapist who they'll give them LSD and walk them through like the process of re-examining your life and stuff like that in a controlled setting. So it sounds like that was more along the lines of the type of thing that you guys are doing. I'm a little
100%.
I'm a little jealous because I've been like, I never talked about this on the podcast before, but I first experimented with LSD when I was like 15, 16. And I did it a lot, like as a teenager. And I think that really set me up to like you said, like it really helps you cut all the bullshit out of your life from a young age. I just never cared about anything. It seemed like what other people cared about. Like it only what was important to me on my path was important because I had those experiences. But I'm kind of jealous that I didn't get to do it as an adult, because I feel like as a kid, it's like, you don't really have anything that you really like. As an adult, I feel like you have so many things that you need to change all the time. And you're like, I need to make a change. I need to be better. As a teenager, I didn't really have anything I was looking to get out of it. And now as an adult, when I do it, I don't get that same feeling like I did before, because I already kind of like used it. You know what I mean? Like my first, I already had like the gains on my first cycle, and I was like only a kid, you know what I mean? Kind of like thing with the drug, you know?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I mean, sometimes I think, oh, I wish I would have discovered certain people in my life and certain things like LSD a lot earlier. And it would have, because I would consider myself like sort of an old head on young shoulders. Like I was very self-aware of and aware of bullshit and things like that from a young age, but I was still not smart enough and switched on enough to really drag myself out of the typical kind of social bubbles and the just the crap, the stuff that holds you down. Not like social circles, social constructs or whatever. And I think, oh God, if I had that when I was 20, I'd be 10 years ahead right now. But at the same time, I think, well, I would have been a lot younger. I would have been a different person mentally, and I probably wouldn't have used it in the right way. So I'm glad that I did it a little bit later, where I was able to be very, like you say, just really make the most out of it to benefit your life and not just as a kind of a party drug. And I feel the same way about bodybuilding as well. Most people will say, oh, what, you started bodybuilding when you were like 30? And I'm like, yeah, it sounds like, oh, he's too old. He'll never make it, But I think, physically it would, if I started when I was 18, I'd be an absolute beast right now. There's no doubt in my mind I would be a very high level competitive professional bodybuilder. It's not maybe being a bit big headed, but, just on a time scale thing. And I think I would be at this point, but I could have spent possibly 10 years of just pissing around, not training properly, not eating properly, and not making the most out of, everything that I've learned. So starting a bit later and being a little bit more self-conscious, a lot more disciplined, a lot more aware of what things really take, how to take things seriously, I think set me up mentally better to make good progress. And physically, I'm in great physical health, I feel like a 20-year-old. So physically, I feel like a 20-year-old.
I made kind of the same mistake too with the bodybuilding. Like I did my first cycle when I was 21 and I just wasn't ready. I just really wasn't ready to take on all the responsibility of being a bodybuilder. And I did make good gains and good results. And I was honestly better as a natural because there was less variables. And then when hormones went into play, my first cycle went well, but I didn't know what to do after that. I didn't have a coach. I didn't have somebody telling me, okay, like I took 500 milligrams test for 16 weeks. Like now what? And I just kind of went, like, I just kind of hovered around that, like slightly enhanced, like 210, 200 to 210, 215, like range for a really long time. Like not really being like, I'm on steroids. Like, is this not working? Like, I don't understand like what's going on. So then I just stopped doing it. And then I just took 2 years completely off bodybuilding. Now I'm 25 and I like have all the knowledge now. I got to talk to guys like Vigorous Steve, Victor Black and a few other guys who like helped me get the information, as well as like the Real Bodybuilding podcast, Muscle Nomads, just reading stuff online. And now I'm actually able to make results sustainably now that I'm 25 and I have the money behind me and the knowledge behind me. So I think that young guys, it depends. Like if you go full steam ahead into it and you have a mentor at 18, yeah, like that's like, you could be like a Jay Cutler, with like a Chris Aceto if you have the right guidance. But if you don't, I would caution guys to just jump in guns blazing because it seems cool, but you can burn out and then you have to reevaluate. And that takes a lot of time and mental energy as well. So I think that the way that you're doing it is safe and good for a long-term life. But I'm curious, what do you think, having started so late? I know you talk a lot about professional aspirations. Like, are you looking to be an IFBB pro, or like, what is your actual goal with your bodybuilding?
I want to be Mr. Olympia, man. Next year. Yeah, no, 100%. I have, I wouldn't say tunnel vision. I'm very focused and very confident that I can do very well in the sport. Just based on progress so far, how I'm, just all the things that are in the mix and bowl right now. I'm pretty confident that, I can do some pretty good damage on a professional level stage within the next, say, in my mind, 3 to 5 years. I think I'll be professional by next year, and then I will have to make the most of that pro card. I'm gonna have to grow into that pro card and really make sure I have a professional level physique before I do pro shows. I don't want to be one of those guys that's like, I don't want to knock any pros or anything, but I saw shows last year, where they're giving out like 15 pro cards, in like one class. Like they're like classic physique divisions where the top 2 of every weight class was getting a pro card before they even got to the overalls. Like it used to just be, well, the winner of the overall gets a pro card, maybe first, second, and sometimes third of the overall, but not the first top 2 of every single class. Do you know what I mean? I think that's.
I think that in
who was it? Callum? Was it Callum von? What's his name?
Yeah, Callum von Moser.
He came second in his class and still got a pro card. He didn't even place in the overalls.
But so the thing is, though, about like classic is like, that's about making money. So that's why they want to give out the pro, you know what I mean? But I feel like
it's the same with men's physique as well.
But with open, though, it's still hard to turn pro. Like Nick Walker just turned pro, and that guy's a freak. I think that, we're talking about the open here. It's still very competitive. I don't think it's easy to get a pro card.
I think that's why I'm drawn to it as well. Not just because of sort of my natural size, and I think it's inevitable that, open is for me. But you know, because I could have stayed shrunk and, you know, shrunk down a little bit and maybe done the whole classic thing. But I think you're either classic or you're not. But the open is like, I'm a big sort of, you know, I only got into bodybuilding a few years ago, but I'll call myself like a purist, where to me, bodybuilding is the bodybuilders. It's the open, 212 now as well, I guess. But that's it. That's bodybuilding. Everything below that is amazing. Like classic's a great division. I love classic. It's really, really cool. And they are bodybuilders. Those guys are jacked and they look amazing. Even some of the men's physique guys at the elite level are, you know, most of them could step on the classic stage if they train their legs a bit, you know, and most of them have legs. But bodybuilding, like there's only one Mr. Olympia, you know, there's only one. That's the top. That's what I want. And I think it doesn't matter if you get a pro card, even if it's easier, if it's hard to get a pro card, it doesn't matter. In the grand scheme of things, it's what you do with it. There's got to be thousands and thousands of pros out there that have probably never even come close to winning a pro show in years and years. So it's all about what you do with it. And so my intentions and my plans are to compete a few times this year, try for the pro card. If I don't get it this year, then next year, because I'm probably going to be unable to travel outside of China this year. So that narrows my chances down a little bit because, you know, they like their home. They're like their own bodybuilders here.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to give Whitey a pro card at their national show. I mean, that's
I won't go into it, but like, so, you know, if I'm looking at top 3 placings at all my shows this year, I'll be happy with that.
So they have
and if
IFBB,
I can travel later in the year, they have IFBB shows here. Yeah, they've got 2 Olympia amateurs this year.
Oh.
2 Olympia amateurs this year. They've got a show called the Global Classic. I think there's 3 or 4 of them throughout the year. And there's quite a lot of regional shows. There's a lot of shows, actually. A lot. Bodybuilding in China is blowing up.
We don't know, really, you don't hear about any Chinese bodybuilders. Is it very competitive? Like, do you feel intimidated by the Chinese competition? Not talking about politics wise, but just physique wise. Like, are they big, ripped? Do they have the knowledge that we have?
Yeah, some of them are beasts. Like their big guy, the biggest, best one is a guy called Liu Chen Hui. Yeah, Liu Chen Hui. And he works with Milos. Big guy, nice, very nice shape. You can see why Milos likes him, because he's a shape guy. He's only competed pro overseas once. He did a Japan show in 2018, I want to say, and he placed, I think, 5th in a pretty decent lineup. Looked really good, but needed to be a bit thicker, a little bit bigger. But in China, he's like a giant of a man compared to most people. And he's quite a tall guy as well. I think he's 6'1", something like that, 6'2" maybe. And over here, he's a superstar. He's like Arnold. Like, everyone knows who he is. God knows how many hundreds of millions of followers. God knows what money that guy makes. And he's only competed professionally once. But it doesn't matter, because he is a pro and he came from China and he's ginormous. And the social media aspect of things over here is, you know, these guys get famous real fast. And with the bodybuilding industry here exploding like it is, it's really cool. It's really, really cool here. I can see bodybuilding here being, you know, potentially like a national level sport, like any other sport. It's already televised. You know, it's bigger in China than I think it is pretty much anywhere else in the world, as far as how many people know about it, how many people watch it, and how big it's growing. You know, in the rest of the world, it's still a fairly underground sport, right? But here I'd say it's a bit more mainstream. So it's really cool. It's really cool. And there are loads and loads of shows. The competition in general, the top guys, they're pretty good bodybuilders. I fancy my chances against most of them. But there's a few dudes out there which I've been on stage against a couple of times already. And yeah, they're pretty beastly dudes. So when people think, Chinese guys are all tiny, there's no way they can be bodybuilders. Nah, you're wrong.
I mean,
And they have
Thailand.
incredible genetics as well.
Oh, really?
Especially the legs, man. They have amazing leg genetics, and their insertions, the cuts, the deep cuts in their muscles, were all over their body, like very nice detailed bodies. Now, when they stand up on stage against, a very big, pro from somewhere else in the world, like maybe from the Middle East or the States or Europe, yeah, okay, you're going to see a bit of size difference there. But quality on certain body parts is really, really good, especially the legs.
That classic guy, that classic guy, Branch.
Chen Kang?
Yeah, I don't know his Instagram. Yeah, his legs are like insane. I don't think he was on the classic stage this year, but I thought he was an open guy when I first saw him posting on Instagram, and he cut down to classic and he looked great. But when he stood next to Bumstead, you could see that the thickness in the upper body, it's just never going to be on like a Bumstead level. But the legs, I would say, were probably even better than.
Yeah, for sure. I think he was maybe overall. Like Bumstead's always gonna, it's just he is classic, right? You think of classic now, you think of Bumstead, amazing physique. But if you look at it from like a proportions point of view, and like the overall kind of symmetry, I think he was the best on stage, personally. Amazing physique, absolutely incredible physique, and probably the best posing routine as well. Maybe on Rough Diesel, but. Really, really good bodybuilder. He's a big deal here as well. Obviously, he's these top guys, especially the ones that make it to the Olympia. There's only been a few Chinese people. They're heroes here, big time. So you see the likes of when you see Hardy go home, and there's hordes of people waiting for them and stuff. It's not quite on that level yet, and I'll say yet because probably will be if they get a good Chinese champion at that real high professional level, placing top 3, winning pro shows. If this Liu Chenhui comes in a bit bigger and better, and when we're able to travel, if he does some shows and wins a few shows, yeah, he'll be an absolute hero here. They go hard for their athletes here. They really, really go hard and support hard for their athletes.
Have you thought about, like, on a business side, how to position yourself like within the Chinese market? Because I know you speak, I saw a video of you speaking Chinese, and my girlfriend is Chinese. So I asked her, is he good? Is his Chinese good? I showed her the video, and she was like, yeah, he honestly, he's, for a white guy, he's very good. He's talking about chicken and rice. So I was like, sounds about right.
Yeah, I think I was doing like a diet video or something.
So are you trying to break in? Because I know they have a lot of different social media channels that we don't have here, like you were talking about, that their media is completely different. So I feel like if you can position yourself there, I mean, you have a unique situation. And look, I don't think there's a single person probably like you in China at all. So do you have a strategy there?
For sure. So one of my biggest priorities social media wise is Chinese social media. Like, I have a few thousand followers on Instagram, and I'll post a workout and a few progress pictures and stuff up there every now and then, some story stuff when I have time. Don't really use Facebook, don't use Twitter. But in China, my Douyin, I've got like 70,000 followers on there. And I got that within a few months. It was nuts. So when you start putting a bit of effort into the Chinese social media and putting some good quality content on there, I think it's just a numbers game. There's just so many more people here active on social media all the time. They're pretty obsessed with it. And there's quite a few platforms, quite a lot, way more than we've got in the West. And they're all kind of interlinked as well. So, you post something on this platform and it shares to this one, this one, and this one, and this one. So the outreach potential from social media is much bigger and better and faster. So I'm still trying to get my head around all of that, because it is all Chinese and some of it's pretty complicated unless you know your way around it or you're a local. Some of it is tricky, but I'm trying and it's getting there. And my kind of game plan with it, I'm already working with a a Chinese supplements brand here as well to, they're going to help me get my face out there a little bit more so people recognize me. And the overall plan right now, especially for this year, is just so I'm not a stranger on stage. When I get on stage, people are like, even if they're like, I've seen him on Douyin somewhere before. I know him. He's from Jinan, that's that Yalun guy, I've got a Chinese name and stuff. And if I can just get it to that kind of level this year, so I'm like, they know that I'm not just a traveling foreigner. I'm actually here. I'm doing my best to represent China. This is my home now. I consider China my home. I'm very passionate about that. This country's given me a lot, and I love it. So I want to really make sure that they feel like not one of their own. I'll never be one of their own. They're a very tight-knit nation, and I don't think I'll ever be accepted as Chinese, but at least, the friendly neighbor who lives here. I'd like to get invited over for birthdays, maybe Christmas. Do you know what I mean? So if I can just get my foot in the door on that kind of level, just so I'm, people are like, oh yeah, I know you. I mean, in my local city, quite a few people know me on the social media platforms and stuff like that. So that's nice. I've noticed recently a lot that it's working, it's getting there, but it's just a numbers game. So I've got a bit of a game plan as far as a bit more outreach on the social media side of things. Because to be honest, I do see it as a bit of a chore. I don't like posting this stuff all the time on social media. I consider it a hard work thing, but necessary.
Yeah.
It is what it is, and it needs to be done, but it's getting there. And I think, with a bit more work with it, I'm going to hire like a young media student to help me sort of really crack into the Douyin side of things, the Chinese stuff that I don't know how to use, and just keep plugging away until I'm a household name as far as bodybuilding is concerned in China. And I think if I get my pro card this year or next year, then that will be a huge thing, especially with the sponsors here, the Oxy Energy, Nutrend, and Olymp. They're like a little trifecta of companies, and they help me out. So I'm very lucky to get any kind of sort of sponsorship help as an amateur. But I guess it's because I'm the big novelty white guy in China, which helps. So I'm going to use that to my advantage, of course. And yeah, the more I get my name out there, if I get that pro card, then my stocks here go, through the roof instantly. That'll be great. Keep teaching my seminars, keep getting the word out there that I am here. I'm in China. I live here. This is my home. My life's here. My wife's here. My business is here. And, I just want to be part of it, especially on the bodybuilding level.
That's so cool, man. Honestly, that's like really awesome. Like I just think that you're in such a unique position, and it's not something that at this point, I just feel like it's very ahead of its time, and I feel like it's not something that you could have really done on purpose. Like it kind of just happened by accident. You know what I mean? Like you went to China first, then you got into the bodybuilding side now. So it's all growing kind of like organically. And I'm really interested in foreign markets. That's why I'm just really interested to hear about this. Like my, degree was in international business. And I went to business school in Thailand. That's like why I was there, like to study that. So yeah. I was like learning about the Thailand market and stuff like that, but they don't seem so, I don't know. Thailand it's definitely not China. Like they're not like, you have to make your money somewhere else and then bring it to Thailand. It's not like a place where you can kind of grow with it. Like it's already there kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like the muscle, but I do feel like Muscle Factory though, when I went there, it felt like when the golden era guys talk about Gold's Gym back in the 70s. Like I was like, this is kind of like the happening place right now. Like if you could just be here, you would probably meet so many people and get so many different opportunities like in bodybuilding that you wouldn't have had like anywhere else. Like this is really the kind of like the future of the sport internationally is here in Muscle Factory. That's how I felt. Did you feel like that?
100%. Yeah. It's definitely the Asian mecca of bodybuilding. Do you know what I mean? It's just got that vibe. It's ticks all the boxes as far as what a gym needs, and more. Burke keeps buying more and more gear all the time for that place. So it's equipment wise and atmosphere, the size of the place, just the overall feel and vibe is the best gym I've ever been to by far. And yeah, it is definitely, you get that vibe. You get that kind of old school, very big, tight knit community of people all there for one reason, everyone bouncing off each other. And it's really cool. They've got a really good thing going there.
Have you found anything like that in China? Like, is there like a hub, or is it kind of still like disparate, people doing their thing in their own gyms?
There's a few bodybuilding gyms, like very sort of bodybuilding gyms that are popping up now. Down south mostly, and it's getting there. But for the majority of gyms, they're all like chains. They're all chains. They're in malls, and or they're like just okay kind of community gyms that they're fine. They're good enough to train in and do the job. I'm lucky to work in one which is very nice and has pretty much everything I need. But for the most part, yeah, gyms, there's loads of them, but a lot of them are hit and miss. But it's getting better and better. And there are more and more people understanding that the fitness industry here is blowing up, and it's a worthwhile investment. So there's more and more money being pumped into the sport and in fitness in general. So I think that will very quickly improve across the board.
So on the day-to-day, you work as a trainer there, like in a gym?
Yeah. So I started off here as a teacher, the typical sort of come to China and teach English as a foreign language to kids, which was great. And that was fun. Did that for like 4 years, my first 4 years here. Put me in a place like security wise and financially, and it was nice. I was comfortable, and I could actually start to really make some good plans in my life rather than just living check to check all the time back home, and praying that there's some work to go to. So it's definitely took my stress levels right down doing that. But although it was a really good fun job, it was never I wasn't passionate about it. I did it and I made the best of it, and I did a good job, and I had fun. But I was getting more and more clients on my online coaching side of things, and I was doing more and more sales all the time with the supplement side of things, and I was getting a good reputation locally for being, as the fitness guy, as Aaron, as the coaching guy, to the point where there's quite a few people that just call me coach now. I'm not even sure if they know my first name. So at least I got a decent reputation here. And yeah, so as a guy, a buddy of mine, Alex, who works for like a big investor guy, who's a big chain of restaurants and things, and they just bought a big chain of gyms called GT Fitness. There's like 8 gyms in the city. And he messaged me one day. He said, "I'll come by the restaurant, and I've got a few ideas to throw by you." And I was like, "Okay, sure." So I went and met up with him, and we were just chatting as normal. I was expecting him to say, we're thinking of doing like a healthy options menu. Can you help us out with it or something? And they ended up saying, "Well, yeah, we just brought all these gyms, and we want to get you on board to come in there and bring in the Western influence, make sure these gyms are running how gyms should be run, and do some coaching, coach the coaches that need coaching, do seminars, the training side of things as well, because they bring on lots and lots of intern coaches here just because there's so many clients. They just need to bring people in to sell the classes and give them basic training. So it's a very, I won't get into that side of things here, but it's very, very different than the West. But these guys, they're enthusiastic and they want to learn for the most part, and they want to improve. So they basically got me in there to help sort of upgrade their game a little bit. And yeah, he offered me all of this and said, let me know what you think. Go away, think about it. And I was like, yeah, sure. Like, yeah, sounds amazing. It sounds like the sort of perfect job for me. I was trying to be cool. I was trying to be like, yeah, it sounds like something I could do. Yeah, I'll have to, run some numbers and just think about it a little bit, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, he gave me a lift home. And as soon as I got out the car and he drove away, I'm in the streets like, yeah, come on, dream job right there. So all the hard work over the few years before that, just doing all the online stuff and supplements, getting the reputation, all paid off. None of someone hears about it, someone tells someone else, someone tells someone else, and as long as you're not a knobhead and you work hard, good things tend to happen. So yeah, I got that opportunity, and now I work in the gym pretty much full time all the time. Got a really good bunch of clients, still do my online coaching, but it puts me in a position now where I can pick and choose when I teach and when I train, when I eat, so I can live a very good structured bodybuilding lifestyle now and get paid for it. So happy days.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's the bodybuilding lifestyle. That's kind of like why I started this podcast, because I was having so much difficulty working my 9 to 5, 9 to 6, really. I was working at a software company and just killing myself every single day. It's making a lot of money, but there was no room for bodybuilding in my life. It just wasn't going to happen. Doesn't matter how like hardcore you want to be about it. When you work 9 to 6 and you have an hour and a half commute each way, like when are you bodybuilding really? So
well, yeah, and it's throughout the day as well. Like, sometimes if you're working a busy job, you can't just stop and eat every couple of hours. You've got to make all the allowances. So any of these guys out there that work like normal jobs, normal 9 to 5s, construction workers, especially guys who do physical work, and they're still bodybuilders and still getting it done.
Yeah.
Respect. Because I was doing it my first year, leading up to my first show. It was 4 months prep, I think it was. And I was teaching full time the whole time. I was teaching a few classes every day and teaching like, I don't know what it was, 4, 5, 6 classes or something on a Saturday and Sunday. And it was brutal, absolutely brutal. Like the last few weeks of prep, I'm like struggling to keep my eyes open, and I've got like kids running around me, and I'll ask a kid a question, and then by the time they finished answering, I'm like, oh, what? yeah, good answer. Yeah, good job. That's right. Next question. Like, it was horrible. And that was just teaching. I was just sitting there teaching English, but just having to be focused on anything during a prep other than bodybuilding, it was just hard, man. It was hard. So maximum respect for anyone who does that.
Yeah, same. I think that, in order to be a successful bodybuilder, or just to be good at bodybuilding in general, you need to kind of start to structure your life around the bodybuilding and find a way to make it work for yourself, because it is a very, time dependent thing. And the reason that I've been asking you all these questions, because I want to paint a picture for guys of like, how does somebody go from point A to point B? If someone's listening and they want to know how you made all these gains in the past 2 years, we'll get into the, obviously, how you've been training, eating, and what you've been taking and stuff like that. But the most important thing is like how you've restructured your life to make bodybuilding a priority. The, mindset shift that you had to take it seriously. Go on.
Yeah. That was the big game changer. Everything else aside, drugs, training, food, whatever, all that aside, I don't think any of it would have worked half as good if I didn't actively restructure my entire life or lifestyle. So timing wise for the job opportunity was perfect, obviously. So I was very lucky with that, very lucky to get that opportunity at the time I got it. But I didn't have that for my first show. I was still working a normal full-time job, and I had to say, like, I was cutting classes, I was calling in sick days here and there, and I explained to them all, I was like, look, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm going through, it's going to get worse the longer prep goes on, and expect me to be not 100%. Same with my personal relationships. It was like, don't call me, don't invite me out, don't do anything, I'm doing this thing, and just deal with it. I'll see you afterwards, I'm fine, just let me get on with it. And the same with the missus as well. It was like, babe, you're just gonna have to. She's never experienced that before, or that was her first experience of any kind of bodybuilding and any kind of prep. She was panicking. There were days where she was like, I'm going to call an ambulance. And I'm like, don't call a fucking ambulance. I'm just tired and I'm hungry and I've not got any energy to do anything. Because you know what it's like? You get so deep into a prep to the point where you can barely keep your eyes open, or you can't even, you're so tired, you don't even want to talk. Like a simple sentence sometimes is like, You just want to sit in silence and sleep and eat and relax.
I haven't done a contest prep. I would like to do one at some point. I just feel like I've done diets, of course, to get lean. And every time I get to that point where it's like that, like 4 to 6 weeks out would be point. I mean, I don't have a competition on the horizon. I'm just dieting to get leaner.
Oh.
And when I get to that point, I'm always like, wow, this is like horrible. I need to probably just stop. You know what I mean? Like, because I don't have a competition to do and I'm suffering. So like, I should probably.
Dude, we're gonna have to pick you a show, and I'll do your prep diet for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something. I just feel like I'm always like, and I know that you did a few shows last year and you've grown so much since then. I just always felt like when I want to step on stage, I want to do it already like complete. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to do a show half baked. Like, what's the point to, like, right now I'm like, I woke up like 221 and if I compete, I would want to compete in classic. So the weight cutoff for me would be like 210 or 215. So I would really need to be like 240 or 250 to cut down to like a really good 210, 215. I'm like 5'10", 5'11" ish. So I just feel like if I'm not 250, why am I going to do a prep? Why am I going to cut down to like 190 pounds just to like be stringy on stage, like, and suffer? You know what I mean? What do you think about, so, cause I know you took a lot of time off for the off season. Do you feel like you're good enough to get the pro card if you cut down right now? Like, what do you think you'll be weighing in at after you shred down? And have you started your next prep yet? And when is the next show?
Show we're looking at August, September, October time. So there's the Olympia Amateur in Beijing in September. There's like a regional qualifier for that show the month before. Some reason in China you have to, I don't think foreigners do. With a foreign passport, you don't need to qualify. But for the locals, they need to qualify to just apply for the Olympia Amateur. Whereas in most countries, you can just apply for any amateur show and show up. But what I think they're doing with that is because there are so many people that want to do bodybuilding and they want to try, there's an influx of people that are just getting on stage to have fun and they look like shit. So what I think they're trying to filter those people out by doing more regional qualifiers. But that company is called the DMS. I'm not sure what it stands for right now off the top of my head, but it's basically like China's version of the
NPC.
Not the NPC. What do you call the nationals? What's the word? NCA.
In the US, it's all NPC and then IFBB.
NPC Nationals America. What was the one that Nick Walker won?
Oh, like the North Americans, but the federation is called the NPC. I think National Physique something. He won. I think
maybe it's just their answer to that. I think it's their answer to that kind of thing, so they have their own kind of federation type thing here. So the Olympia Amateur in September, we're going to do that, do a warm-up show beforehand. Depending on how the Olympia Amateur show goes, will depend on what show I do then after that. I would like to have done summer shows because there's a really cool show down on the beach in Sanya, which I would have liked to have done. But timing wise, we don't want to rush anything. We want to eke every last day out of the off season as possible. Because, although the progress has been amazing, there's still a lot of weak areas that do need bringing up. To be really competitive at a higher level. I don't want to kind of just scrape by and like, oh, can't believe I got my pro card. Like I got lucky there. And then, people look at you and go, what the fuck? This is a pro? Like they're giving pro cards out to anyone these days, I don't want to be one of those pro card winners. I want to deserve it. But I do think this year, I'm very confident that my onstage look, based on what I looked like at my first show and the weight gain, the muscle gain, and what I've looked like this off season, I think it's going to be pretty awesome improvements compared to that show. So I do think it will be a pro card worthy physique. That's the goal. That's the aim. If I don't get it, I don't get it. We'll try again. But yeah, I think it's going to be a pretty good complete package. Not 100% complete, but complete enough for that pro card, I think. We'll see.
So in terms of the off season, like what did it really look like? Let's say from your last show until right now, like, did you guys do a PCT after the show? Did you just go right into putting on mass? Like, what compounds were you using? How many calories were you eating? Could you just describe like the process? Because people are going to want to know,
Yeah,
how
I'll go into all the details for you. I'll run through it all. So 2019 September Global Classic was my first show. I came in like second from last or something like that. Looked, in my eyes, I was very happy. Best shape I've ever been in. So you've always, everyone's first show is of course always the best shape they've ever been in. But it was just nice to actually experience that, and to get through the prep and everything for the first time is such a sense of relief and achievement, because it's something not everyone can do, I believe. And I think once you've gone through your very first prep and you've made it to the stage and you look good, not just making it to the stage, actually looking pretty good on stage, that's a huge achievement. So after that was like maximum confidence. But anyway, so I did that one. And that was straight after Thailand. We started prep. So I had no off season before that, just whatever size I had at the time. And I started my cycle at the beginning of prep. And I started working with Steve, very, very basic stuff. Like we were just like, okay, let's try and find a sweet spot of testosterone to start with. Let's just ease your diet in. What are you eating? Let's eat you at maintenance calories. Maybe, I think we actually started in a surplus, just feeding everything as much as possible. Because before that, I decided to do some crazy like 12-week keto thing just as an experiment. And I was flat as a pancake. But so yeah, we kind of just fed me back up a little bit, put me back on track, let the testosterone and stuff just kick in and get high, and just make sure things are feeling good, and just very taking a lot of data, being very observant of everything. And with Steve, working with Steve, he's on everything. We do our blood work all the time, and we're making sure meal for meal is feeling good, digesting well, any changes that need to be made. Training, luckily I've always, like I said, advocate of very hard, heavy, intense training, so we didn't have to change that much. Steve's very much the same. We train straight sets to failure, a couple widow makers here and there, maybe a bit of metabolite work here and there, but for the most part the meat and potatoes of our training is very much balls to the wall, train to failure. And I love it. It works for me, not for everyone, but it works for me. It works for him. And at the time, I think we were on just a push-pull leg split. And then we backed it off to a 5-day because I responded very well to more rest. And sorry if you can hear that, it's my cat in the background fighting. And yeah, so we just eased our way through that prep, and I'll cut all that off and we'll get straight into the off-season stuff. Show was good. It was great. After that, took a little bit of a break for a few weeks. That first show, the week after the first show, I said to Steve, I said, look, I know I've heard all the stories about when people go crazy and they binge eat after shows. So I've lost the camera a bit here, haven't I? Is that better?
I think you're okay. It's a little blurry, but it's okay.
Yeah, it might come back. I don't know why it's done that. Oh, well. And I said to him, yeah, so I'm not going to go crazy after the show. I'm not going to binge eat, and I'm not going to put on, 20 pounds of water and get edema and eat two or three pizzas every day. And that's exactly what I did. When the show finished, I was like, fuck this. I'm eating everything. And I went hard. I went hard as hell. And my dad showed up on a holiday, came over to watch my first show, which was pretty cool. And then my wife's family came down to Shanghai, where the show was, just for a family holiday. It was like national holiday here in China at the time. And that was great. But I ate, oh my God, breakfast buffets, bro. I was balls deep in those buffets, going hard. And I think I put on about I think I put on about 25 pounds in 5 days or something like that. And it was bad. I could get like half my thumb into my shin.
Oh,
So that's not very healthy. Don't do that. Don't do that. I felt like absolute trash. But you got to live and learn off those things. My first show, first rebound. So
it's a hormonal thing, I'm sure Steve probably told you too. Like, I'm sure like with the ghrelin and the way your hormones get fucked up for starving for so long, it's like you almost don't really have a choice, and you've never been through it before. So it's kind of like a rite of passage.
Control. Yeah, zero control over it. I really did actually consciously try to think to myself, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do this. I'm going to keep it under control. 1 cheat meal a day. That's it. It's so hard. It's so hard. But it happened and it was over in a few days later. And then we decided to jump into a show, the Sean Roden Classic in Manila in December. So a couple months after. So I got rid of all the water, got back in fairly decent shape, prepped into that one. Into that prep, I would say I was a bit lazy on that prep. I was trying my hardest, but I always felt like I was a bit behind. I always felt like I wasn't coming from the best starting point. And I had dieted for quite a long time, all the way up until that show. We started in June, July, August, September. It was a long ass diet, a long time dieting. And I just felt, I don't know, subconsciously, I felt like I was always behind a bit. And I think that maybe just didn't help with stress and cortisol and things like that. So I got to the show, a few days out, started the loading process and things like that. And I was like, okay, things are happening, starting to look pretty good. I could go there and have a fairly decent showing and place okay, just go for the experience. Had no, crazy, I didn't know who was going to be there. So it was like, well, possibly could place pretty high. We'll see what happens. Anyway, day before the show, last meal, go out for a burger, find somewhere nice and have a good burger, load up, and you'll look awesome in the morning. Went to the nicest gourmet burger place I could possibly find to be safe, not a streety, crappy one. And I got the worst food poisoning I have ever had in my entire life. And I just spent the whole night next to the toilet with the world falling out of my body and just throwing up all the time. It was horrible. Night before the show, night before the piss and show. That's not an excuse. It just happens. So,
it is an excuse, really. It is an excuse. It's not your fault. It's not due to lack of, you know what I mean? Like, it's not due to lack of trying on your part. That sucks, dude.
Yeah, we tried everything, and then it was a case of, okay, well, you need to get some water in you. Otherwise, you're just going to be too weak to do anything. You're not even going to be able to make it to the show. So we had to hydrate when we shouldn't have been hydrating, just for health reasons,
Mm-hmm.
Health comes first. So we just wanted to get to the stage healthy at that point. So I got there. I got to the stage. I did my thing. I had fun with it. Didn't look great. Obviously I was holding water. I was a bit fluffy, to be expected at that point. So I was trying not to overstress and just enjoy the time. But I was in quite a lot of discomfort. So it was difficult to keep a smile on my face and do my routines. But I ended up placing like third or something in my class. And then overalls, I think I was dead last in the overalls with about 10 people. So no big deal. But there were some really big guys there, actually. And one of them was a guy called Li Yaqiang from China. He actually won it. He won the overall, got his pro card there. And he's also on the same supplements company as me as well. But I've seen him recently, and now I'm bigger than him. Which gives me a huge confidence boost going forward, because I stood next to him and he looked at me and he was like, holy shit. I only saw you like a year ago. What happened? And I was like, well, I saw you. What happened to you? He just had a massive break. He was like, I'm taking like a year or two out.
Okay.
I'm like, okay. Like, I couldn't imagine doing that after just winning a pro card. I would be on the steam train to the pro shows, trying to make the best out of it.
I just talked to a guy who just won his pro card. I don't know if you know him, Cade Zook. He was on the last episode. He won in 2019 his pro card in the US. He's huge. He's like 300 pounds. And
Holy shit.
right after he won it, he was telling me he got like really depressed and like kind of has been like off. I mean, he's still been training and everything, but just been cruising for a long time after he won his pro card, because he doesn't want to go into a pro show, and like, he just doesn't think that he could win like a pro show yet. He doesn't want to push himself. So, and he's just kind of like stuck. I feel like a lot of guys get their pro card and then they're like, fuck, you know what I mean? Like, I was chasing this and now I don't know if I can like compete with these guys. And then it just goes kind of, so, I mean, I see.
I guess the longer you do it, the harder it gets as well. So if you get to that pro level kind of physique where you do get a pro card, you realize like, fuck, this is going to take a long time to get to that level. And I guess with all the momentum he probably had going into the pro show and all the improvements being made and winning the pro show and being up here, and now he's got to start again from down here.
Yeah.
All the way back up the ladder. Like getting the pro card, when I get the pro card and someone asks me, all right, so how do you feel? What's next? I'm going to be like, well, I just completed level 1. You know, I just completed the first mini boss. There's God knows how many more levels to go that I've got to try and complete before getting to, you know, where everyone wants to be on the big stage. So yeah, I imagine it's pretty daunting. You're going to have a real hunger and a fight. I mean, how long has he been bodybuilding? How long does it take him to get his pro card?
He is around your age. I think he's in his early 30s, but he's been doing it since like 18, and it's been like, you know, it's been like a thing to get the pro. I mean, you can check out the podcast; it'll be up next week if you want to. But yeah, it's like he just kind of outlined how long he's been doing it, and like just how much it took out. He tore his pec like right before, like the year before. Then he got the pro card, but now he has it, but he has a torn pec, and he just doesn't know how much like further he can go. Had a kid and stuff like that. So it just like kind of becomes, you know, it just becomes like kind of confusing, especially with like the situation in the world right now and everything like that. I don't know. I get it. I mean, I personally don't have any aspirations for the stage at all. I'm just trying to build up completely on the social media side. I like the way that Vigorous Steve did it, because he's a great bodybuilder, never had to get on a stage, and built like a good name, reputation, and life for himself and stuff like that. But I know some people, I mean, I would like to get on the stage at least once, but I know some people are very drawn to the stage, you know, and they like that. And I think for you, I mean, you have a big opportunity because your stage is a little different. The China stage gets you more exposure and helps you grow that way too. I think that you've managed to sustain a really high level of motivation, you know, even after all those early things that happened to you, you know what I mean? Getting food poisoning and stuff like that. So I don't know. I think
that's one of those things. I think I heard so many stories of people going through stuff like that. At that point, I was pissed off and uncomfortable, but I was like, well, this is probably not going to be the first time that this happens at a show. You're just going to have to brush it off, you know, suck it up, get on with it, enjoy it, do the best you can, and move on to the next one. So for me, it was no real big deal. Like, you know, I had a pretty good, solid circle of people around me that are all very encouraging. So it wasn't a big deal for me, that one. That was kind of like an extra bonus show anyway. It wasn't something, it was like, well, there's one coming up. It's only in Manila. It's a few hours away, you know, go and do it. See what happens, kind of thing. So to me, it was no real big deal. But moving forward from here, yeah, 100% big deal. Like I'm really on a train that's not got any brakes right now. It seems to be moving forward really well. I have no intention of stopping. And I guess for me, compared to that Cade guy, like, you know, 12 years of bodybuilding to get to that level, it's a long time. You know, it's a long time. I can't imagine, like, I can't really, you know, relate to that. I'm only 2 years in. So I think being as close to that level as I say as close to that level, I might be miles away from that level. But, you know, in my head, being within reach of a pro card, you know, after a couple of years, you know, that's nothing in the grand scheme of things. So it gives me a lot of confidence that I do have enough time to make the improvements needed to be successful as a pro if I get there. Not if, when.
So tell us all about the off season from that show until right now. How did it start off, and how have things progressed? I'm really curious about like how low, like where the food started and where it went, some of your weights and training, your weight, the cycle. Like, what I know Steve takes a progressive approach. So like how much did you have to push things in order to continue growing, and how many pounds did you put on from then till now?
Well, you'd be surprised, because even Steve's surprised. He's like, I don't understand how you're still growing,
Yeah.
because I don't need a lot of food. I don't know why. I just respond very well to very little. But basically, the off season started with COVID for one. I was on after those shows. I, took a couple of months out, clean out. Just on a TRT level dose of testosterone, just get healthy, get everything good. Went to Bali with the missus, had a nice holiday there, chill out for a while, spend some time on the beach by the pool. Then COVID hit. So we were like, shit, we better get back to China. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to get back at all. So we went back to China. Everything was locked down. The lockdown was just starting, just happening. So there was no off season to start with. I had every intention of coming back off holiday and getting right into it. So we lost that was from February to May, June time. So we lost that time, about 3 or 4 months of just lockdown. During the lockdown, I had access to a friend's gym in his office, which was like a piece of crap, like multi-gym. He had some dumbbells up to like 20 kilos or something like that. So it was better than nothing. And I was able to at least stay a little bit active and go to his office a few times a week and just like sneak in the back entrance and do a little bit of a workout. So I was very lucky with that, but it wasn't enough. I didn't have enough there to really make some good plans, put some plans together and make some good progression. So it was just enough to kind of, just keep myself from going crazy at home all day long. So yeah, the off season we started, I think it was like mid-May, end of May, maybe something like that, maybe even June. And it was like, okay, gyms are open, let's get into it. And I started working at the gym at that point as well, full time again. So I was like, okay, let's get back into this. And we started at about, I want to say, I wish I had my bloody plans. I would look on my phone, but I can't get it up. I want to say around 3,000 calories, something like that. Something pretty, easily managed. Kept it pretty standard across the board, decent amount of protein, decent amount of carbs, high fat meal, last meal, no carbs, last meal. And pre and post, what I have at the time is a pre-workout shake in the morning, post-workout meal. I think we were doing 6-7 meals a day, something like that, with a couple of shakes, including
For 3,000 calories, that must have been small meals.
Yeah, so we're spreading these things out to start with, yeah, for sure. It wasn't a big deal amount of food. Actually, no, it's 6 meals, sorry, 6 meals a day, but still easy manageable, meal sizes, nothing crazy there. And training-wise, we decided to go 4-day split, get extra rest, extra recovery, and see how I respond to that, which worked a treat because, yeah, that extra day of rest is been great, and I get more than enough work done on those 4 days. Just go hard. So yeah, around about 3,000 calories we started at, something like that. Testosterone only at that point at the beginning. Couple of IUs of GH before bed every day, little bit, just for health purposes and longevity stuff more than anything on that kind of dose. Little bit of fat loss, get rid of some fluff, nothing crazy. So we ate ourselves in, recomped a little bit, make sure we were looking in decent shape. No crazy fat loss diet. Started straight in with the recomp, started looking good, and then gradually increased calories from there. So a few months goes by, really, really good progression in the gym and training. So I've lost the camera again here, and I don't know why it does that. Really good progression in strength and everything like that. And a few months goes by and we get the food up to like 4,500. So still in bodybuilding terms, not a massive amount of food. But I was growing, and I kept growing, and I was growing fast and looking good, looking very good, looking very round and very full. At this point, we've added in Primo. So we're on test and Primo, 600 and 600, 3 times a week, spread across 3 times a week. So 600, 600, 1200 total. And a few I use a GH. And yeah, amazing results. Super simple, very, very easy to manage. Aromasin is my AI, twice a week at that point, 12.5 twice a week. Really good. Blood works fine. Everything's healthy. I'm full as a house all the time. Training progression's really good. I'm getting the food in. I'm not a big foodie guy, so increasing calories is pretty difficult for me. I have to really force it down. So it was really a case of just, I think this off season we've gone through maybe like 3 or 4 recomp phases where my weight has stayed the same, but I've just grown into the weight really well and looked better and better. And that sometimes took a couple of weeks, sometimes took, 3 or 4 weeks. And then my weight would start gradually going up again, or we would boost the calories a bit. But it's very, very controlled, very progressive in the diet. Nothing crazy, no huge, great big jumps, no huge changes in macros and micros, just small, subtle changes that Steve makes depending on, overall calories and how I'm looking and what needs feeding and what doesn't. And the progress has been nuts. And people are like, what? So, how much are you doing of this, and this, and this? And they list off 4 or 5 different things. Let's see if I can get this back. 4 or 5 different things. And I'm like, no, just test and Primo. Test and Primo, that's all you need. And so that's been great. And then we decided to, so I struggled at about, where was I? I think I was at like 117 kilograms, something like that, whatever that is in pounds. And
250.
Something like that, yeah. 255-ish, something like that. And feeling good. Strength was good, but I couldn't break that weight. And we upped the calories a little bit. Still, I was just kind of recomping into that weight all the time. I was just feeding the recomp, which was great because I looked really good and I was staying very healthy. I tried not to obsess too much on the weight on the scale because it doesn't really represent your body composition. 118, some people will stand on a scale and it will say 118, but they look 140, So it's one of them. It's just how you hold it. And luckily for me, I was holding it pretty well and recomping really well. So I was very happy with that. But I wanted to get a push. I wanted to get over the 120 mark and hold that for a couple of months and recomp into that weight. So I know I've got that muscle. I've held on to it. My body's used to it. And then we can diet down to, maybe the 110 range for a show. So we added in the final part of the trifecta, which is a little bit of Lantus, long-acting insulin there. So nice, easy to manage, nothing crazy. Half a dozen I use in the morning, take me through the day just to help with a little bit of nutrition uptake. GH at the right time. I think at that time I was doing just morning and evening. And yeah, again, very healthy. Blood pressure was good. Everything's good. Markers were good. Felt good. Progression was there. And didn't really have to keep boosting calories. We've only recently, a month ago, I think, boosted from 4,500 up to 4.8, 4.7 or 4.8. And it's like, oh, Jesus Christ, I'm sick of eating. And he's like, what are you talking about? I've got guys on like 6,000, 7,000 calories that are, that aren't as heavy as you. And he's like, I don't understand how you're growing so much on such little calories. I'm like, me neither, but I like it because I don't like eating, which is probably going to be a huge downfall for me in the future. I'm going to have to learn how to eat more. I guess I think dieting as well is very much like any part of bodybuilding. It's just practice. I've only been doing this 2 years, eating that amount of calories that consistently for that long. It's not something you're going to learn in one off season. The first one's going to be really challenging. Second one might be a little bit easier. Third one might be even easier, you know, and after that, it might be a case of, okay, yeah, off-season eating is, you know, it's a lot of food, but I'm used to it. This is my very first real structured off-season with a coach. And it's pretty hard. Like, I'm really looking forward to starting dieting. It's just constant food most of the time. And again, we haven't upped any of those dosages that I mentioned. No need. Found a sweet spot. Happy with that. And just growing really well on that right now. Right now, I'm actually off the Lantus at all, just cleaning out a bit of sensitivity from that. Waiting for some more to show up as well. So it's just testing primo, just cruising on through.
Was the Lantus every day or just on training days?
Yeah, I wouldn't do it on rest day. Yeah, I wouldn't do it on rest day. I would do it on, so Monday, Tuesday. My work day is, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday's my day off of everything. So I'd have like 2 days there where I don't use it. So yes, mostly on those training days or the day after a heavy training day where I still want the nutrition uptake. But yeah, very, very moderate, very modest doses. Nothing crazy, no crazy, nothing considered dangerous, you know. Everything's considered very sort of mild. Most of the things I do are considered very low dose, I would say.
I would say so.
Bodybuilders. Compared to most bodybuilders my size and my weight, my food and my supplements, very, very low. But for me, very effective. So I'm happy with that. You know, I think we're going to really make the most out of everything before increasing. I think people increase way too fast. They're like, just add more, up the dose, up the dose, up the dose. You know, but what it seems to be with me is that we're finding like, okay, well, this is working. You're growing well, you know, way past our expectations. So why, you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right?
Yeah, I think considering all that stuff, I mean, I would be very optimistic as well if I were you, because it's so low at this point. You've only been doing it for a few years and you're already seeing weights that guys really tried to reach for a long time. So, I mean, when you start taking real pro, you know, dosages like in the 2 to 3 grams range, if that ever even needs to happen, I mean, it's going to be.
Well, it may not need to happen. I think, you know, I think people, there's that point of sort of no return, right? There's a point of no results, you know, when you're not going to keep up in the dose, but it's not really doing you any benefit apart from killing your bank account. So I think as long as this sort of sweet spot that we found is working, then why change it? Because we've still got plenty of room to up the calories. I'm only on 4,800 calories, which I know bodybuilders that would laugh at me and call me a pussy and say that's breakfast, you know, and I spread that out over 6 meals a day.
I mean, I don't think it's that little though. I listened to, you know, like on the Real Bodybuilding podcast, like Ian and Hunter LeBrod, I remember were talking about their diet and they were saying like their off season, they were eating about 5,500 or something like that. I mean, I think like the 8,000 sort of thing is kind of like a marketing gimmick, or maybe some guys have to eat that much, but I would say that most pros,
what's his name? Jamie the Giant probably needs to eat that kind of calories.
8,000.
But yeah, most, you know, again, I think it's finding those sweet spots where, especially now that a lot of bodybuilders like staying a little bit leaner, you know, a lot of them don't really like breaching that 15% body fat mark. It's a very nice, comfortable place to be where you feel healthy and you can still make great progress, which I think is a really good, healthy option. And yeah, so you don't need to be going too crazy on the calories. You know, we're not all big rammies. We don't need that kind of food. Although I heard he's like a hyper responder to food as well. He doesn't need a massive amount compared to considering his size. But, you know, on these calories, on these dosages, and like I'm still working full time and things like that, but I'm managing everything around the bodybuilding as best as I can. You know, some days I'll have to force in an extra client or two, or I'll have a long meeting or something like that, and maybe a meal has to take an hour, you know, an hour later. But for the most part, it's pretty much on point all the time. And that's been the biggest game changer in results. I noticed that big time. My biggest challenge right now is what I'm trying to manage. Is recently has been going quite well. I was just managing my sleep a little bit more. I go to bed quite late and I sometimes wake up quite early. So I would like to get an extra hour and a half, 2 if I can, of sleep consistently daily. And I think that will help massively as well. So, you know, one thing at a time, but it's getting there. And just for reference, I was 100 kilograms on stage for my first show. I'm 121 kilograms now. And I am probably around about 12-ish% body fat, something like that. So pretty good, on point, made some pretty considerable gains. I think when we get down to stage weight, I'm looking at maybe 110 would be nice. 108 to 110. I think I'll be happy with that. You know, that's a good 20 pounds in June, July, August, September, October, November, December, January. 8 months. 20 pounds in 8 months, first off season. I'm happy with that. I can't complain with that, and healthy. So
I think it'll be really interesting to see your progression because, you know, we don't get to see a lot of guys historically like starting out and then coming up like from the beginning to kind of like the pro card and then into the pro thing. That's like more of a recent phenomenon, you know, like 10 years ago, we didn't have people documenting their journey from the beginning. So when you're talking to me about, you know, what you're taking and what you're doing and stuff, what I think is, you know, it's genetics really that's making you grow so fast. I mean, there's really no other factor in there. I mean, Steve's obviously a great coach, but I think that, you know, he's even shocked that you're growing so fast. So there's no kind of like magic bullet here. I mean, you're using all the things that bodybuilders use at a certain point. Obviously
the same thing everyone else uses, but way less, and probably 2 or 3 compounds less as well. So I know some bodybuilders that are on a cocktail of 4 or 5 different compounds throughout the entire off season. Like, how do you even know it's working? You know, I'm on 2 and I'm like, is it the test or the Primo? You know, that's enough for me to think about. I don't want to think about more than that. But yeah, definitely there's that genetic factor. It's just this part of it. I think if it wasn't for that, if it wasn't for getting a bit of reassurance about that based on what I looked like in Thailand and the guys taking a good look at me and saying, you know, thumbs up or thumbs down, like, yeah, go for it. Or, you know, you can try, but don't get your hopes up. So yeah, there is definitely a genetic factor in there, but I think I've known that since a young age, because although everyone grows very fast when you get, you know, your newbie gains, but I remember specifically one rugby preseason where I hit it really hard. I was eating tins of mackerel and like, what do you call them? Uncle Ben's microwave rice bags, like 3 times a day during the work. Every morning I was having like a big mixed shake, like a homemade mass gainer with oats and whey and all kinds of stuff in there, peanut butter and everything, you know, the classic homemade mass gainer. And then in the evening I was smashing chicken and sweet potato and a you know, a pile of spinach that could fill a suitcase. Because that's, at the time, I had a basic idea of nutrition, but nothing, you know, substantial. That I didn't really know what I was doing. I just knew that this looked more like a bodybuilding diet than what I was eating before. But it was working. It was working. We were training. Like, I was in a construction job at the time. So I was, you know, doing hard graft all day. And then finish work, hit the gym in the evening and just go and absolutely crush it in the evening, like just balls deep, everything to failure. And I was growing really fast. And I remember the rugby season started and I showed up. I'm in the changing room, shirt off or whatever. And everyone's like, oh yeah, so what are you on then? How much gear are you taking? Blah, 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 blah. I had no idea about anything back then. I had no idea, absolutely no idea about anything. I knew there was one other guy on the team. I won't say his name. I'm not sure if he's open about it or not. But this was ages ago. He doesn't play rugby anymore. But he was jacked. He was a prop. He was jacked, and he had big old traps and massive chest. And as a short guy, actually looked a little bit like you, but shorter and like super jacked. And yeah, and I just thought, fucking hell, yeah, I want to look like that. Like, he's massive. All I knew was that he's definitely not natural. What he was taking, how much he was taking, I had no idea. I had no interest and no idea at that point. All I knew is that I'm just going to keep eating what I'm eating, keep taking my protein shakes, keep taking my creatine, and I'm growing and it's working, you know. And it was it was a pre-season for the rugby season, and it wasn't like structured, as in I didn't have any plans or anything written down. I just worked hard, and I blew up fast compared to everyone else, really fast. So I knew, like, I've got a genetic potential to put on muscle very, very quick. So I kind of knew that, but I wasn't sure how I was going to respond, what the response was going to be like at 30, and not starting my first cycle until 30. Because I don't really know what to expect, you know. Is this going to take ages? Have I already missed my kind of genetic window? Am I going to blow up? I had no idea. So I was just trial and error, really, and just see what happens. Luckily, it's been pretty damn good.
I think you've got a lot of confidence since then. I can see. I want to ask you about. I know that a lot of the GH that we use, you know, comes out of China, and you mentioned GH. Is the GH that you're using there? Is it like pharmaceutical grade, or is it the generics, the Chinese generics? And what do you think about that? Like maybe having more experience on the ground.
Yeah, I mean, most of the stuff here, there's a few labs. There's I know a couple of guys that import, because, you know, there's people that don't really want to use the Chinese generics, but in reality, it's all made here. I think even the raw materials that are used in American-made or English-made products, all the raws come from China. So I think it's just the manufacturing process. You have to be careful of, you know, what kind of vials they're using, the seals, how well it's handled, how well it's stored. These are the things I think that provide the most problems. And obviously the carrier oils, you know, the better carrier oil you can find, the better you're going to be. It's tough. Like I have my contacts. I know there's way more people here that are selling it, but there's so much shit on the market. It's unbelievable. I don't even bother with looking at any of it. I know what I can get my hands on. I know what works for me. I know what shows up well on my markers, and that's it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I get phone calls and text messages and emails and stuff all the time from God knows how many different sellers for enhanced supplements. And all the ones I hear from in China, like, they're either supplying the same stuff that's already available, I've already have available, or there's lots of brand new labs popping up all the time in China. And they're like pop-up steroid labs. They're open for a few weeks. They manufacture as much as possible, and then they burn everything, close down, and disappear. But, you know, the quality of this stuff is just not going to be good. So, you know, I think we have pretty much the same access. If you look around and you get the right sources, we have access to probably what most people worldwide have access to. But unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there just sell whatever crap they can get their hands on. So people who don't have the contacts or the know-how, they just kind of they end up taking God knows what. I haven't had any experience myself with any of these. I've just heard stories. As far as I can tell with like GH, I mean, your pharma grade's always going to be better. You can get it. It's very, very, very expensive, extremely expensive. And you've usually got to have someone who knows someone at a hospital. So it's a little bit touchy and tough to get. But, you know, the UGL stuff here is what it is. There's a couple of brands we like to use. It seems to work. You know, we've done tests and things like that to see just to make sure what's fake and what's not. But yeah, potency wise compared to pharma grade stuff that you can probably get anywhere else in the world, yeah, it's going to be not as good, but you make do with what you've got and do your best, right?
That's interesting, because I know there's like a big, you know, always a debate about pharma versus, you know, generic GH. And I know Vigorous Steve, you know, always preaches pharma, but obviously not everybody has the funds or the, you know, access for that. And a lot of
just access. I say to him all the time, I'm like, mate, I would love to. I was like, but I can't. I don't live in Thailand where you can get it over the counter. You know, he's in a great situation there. Here, it's impossible. You know, it's impossible to get. So it's just not an option. You just got to deal with what you can and what you can't get. And in America, you know, there's clinics on every street now. You know, you can just go in there and say, you know, I can't get a hard on. I need TRT. You know, 600 megs a week of it. And then, they'll just prescribe that for you. Happy days.
It's not like that. It's not like that.
Come on. Everyone's got it.
Everyone's got it, but 600 milligrams a week, they were not going to prescribe you that.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
you might get you'll get 200
might
a
get
week.
Two at a push.
Yeah, you'll get 200 a week, and you'll pay like $100 to $150 a month for it. So it's like,
you know, at least it's going to be good gear, right?
Yeah, that's true. But like, I think we have like a thing, like you can fly in with stuff. So like you can go to Mexico, get like some tests, and like, as long as it's pharmaceutical, not like
Just
underground.
carry a prescription with you.
Yeah. If it's like Rotex, or if it's like, whatever pharmaceutical brand like that they have down in Mexico, Sustanon and stuff like that. And you can take Rotex in from Thailand or whatever, I think. I know in the UK, you know, it's very open, so you kind of missed out on that whole thing.
Yeah, I missed out on all of that. Yeah, big time. I'm gutted. But, in the UK, it's just personal use. You know, if you want to use it, It's fine.
All right, man.
It's like rules and laws here. It's very much like, well, there's laws, but it's fairly relaxed. I think they're just trying to get the big sellers, the illegal sellers and factories. They're always trying to shut those places down. But, you know, legit labs, you know, for instance, like Pharmacom or something like that, like a big lab, or say, I think Keife is a big one in Asia, Elipharm, Zendever, which I actually think is in the UK now. You know, these are some of the bigger name brands that tend to provide slightly better quality than some of these really small labs. Mate, I've had people send me pictures and be like, look, my buddy's just got this new GH from this lab that's just been set up. It's like a completely unlabeled box, unlabeled vials. Could be anything. Could be a little vial full of salt and sugar. Who knows? It's like, I'm not buying any of that crap. I'm not even going to risk it. So it's here. And it's everywhere, so you just got to be smart about your decisions with it.
That's definitely one of the considerations. I think, like, especially moving to Asia or living in different countries, and like, you know, sourcing is a part of bodybuilding. In the US, it's very easy, but in other countries, I mean, I'm just curious about the generics from China, because, you know, everyone's doing generics these days. It's very rare that you find someone who like runs legit pharmaceutical, you know, GH or gear or whatever. Like, I know that some people are like big snobs about it and they'll only take pharma stuff, but like, let's be honest, most of the guys on the Olympia stage have taken all different kinds of, you know, UGL pharma,
I'd be surprised
they could get their hands on.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of them. You just make do with what you've got, and just be safe. You know, go and get your blood work done. You know, make sure you're good. Get your CRP checked if you're using, like, you know, not great carrier oils. Make sure your inflammation levels and stuff are good, and check all the normal markers that you should be checking, and just keep on top of your shit. I think the problem people make is that, you know, there's too many guys out there just buy any kind of crap. They don't know what they're doing. They're throwing together all kinds of crazy cocktails. You wouldn't believe some of the cocktails I've heard about that people are taking, from beginners to advanced guys. I'm just like, what the fuck? And they just take way too much crap, and they don't really know what they're taking. They don't know how to explain it. You know, they don't really know what's going on internally. Oh yeah, so have you got your blood work? Do you want me to take a look at your blood work for you? You know, just double check things. They're just winging it. Most people are just winging it. So it's, you know, but it's up to them. You know, you want to do it properly, do it properly. If you don't, then, you know, if you get ill and you get sick and you fuck yourself up, then it's your own fault.
I think it takes a lot of time, and you got to be into it to even have the reference to understand that you need to get blood work and you need to do all this stuff and what's safe and what's not. It takes time to meet the people, to have the conversations and get into the, you know, private circles that, or maybe not even private, but just like to find like a podcast like Muscle Nomads or like this podcast or like the Real Bodybuilding podcast doing a great service. But like a few years ago, there was nothing like that. And there's really no way to know that the best thing for you to do isn't to just take all the gear that the guy down at the gym told you to take and never get a blood test. Like you wouldn't really know any better if you're just like a gym rat who wants to be a Mr. Olympia. So
yeah, for sure. I feel sorry for some of the guys, especially a few years ago that started, and they're already a few years deep into like God knows what, taking God knows what. Because yeah, you're right for exactly what you just said. But yeah, shout out to everyone doing the good information these days. Like there's so much good information out there. There's so many people giving like good, correct information, and it's there. The information is there. The educated people are there. They're providing all of this information online all the time for free, you know, and it's just a case of, are you being lazy or do you just really not know? It's one of them. It's like most people are on YouTube these days, Googling and YouTube and everything they can try and find out about. If you search any kind of anabolic compound on YouTube, at some point you're going to come across a video that is smart and it is going to tell you, you need to go and do your blood work. Less is more. Don't do this, don't do that. Maybe do this if you're ready. Make sure your diet and training is in place first. Make sure you've reached some kind of natural potential first. But that's not what people want to hear. These young kids want results and they want it fast. So they're more likely going to listen to fucking, you know, I don't know, some bullshit guy on YouTube, you know, just saying, oh, take fucking 3,000 grams of this. And, you know, it's crazy. There's so many good ones out there now. In fact, I'll just shout out a couple, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Obviously, Vigorous Steve. You know, we've both probably learned from very similar sources of people. I was very lucky that Steve is my first coach. To be set on such a good, healthy, and effective path with the most deep. I've seen a lot of other coaches, like plans and things they put in place. Steve's detail is on another level compared to anyone I've seen. And so I'm very, very lucky that, you know, my boy Rocco hooked me up with, you know, meeting those guys, because I think that set me up really well for success, or hopefully success. I don't want to sound big-headed like an asshole. I know I probably sound maybe a bit too overconfident, but I've got to be like that. I have to be overconfident. Otherwise, you know, I don't want any doubts in my mind. But yeah, to be with people like that and the people I have helping me is huge. Massive advantage, I think. But, you know, you've got people like that. Steve's also, you know, done work and I think is going to be working more with Derek from More Plates, More Dates. Amazing source of information for people that have heard that name and only ever seen, like, you know, the clickbait videos of The Rock's, you know, steroid cycle. Just skip through those ones and go and check his channel out, because his channel's really, really good and you'll learn a lot and you'll probably save yourself a lot of issues. So, you know, he's a really good one. Obviously, all of Fuad's stuff, you know, the Bodybuilding and Bollocks, the Real Bodybuilding podcast. It's just bodybuilding with Big Ron and Dusty. So many out there. Dante Trudeau's, he doesn't post a lot on YouTube, but, you know, just scroll through his Instagram stuff. He's got some really good detailed article things that he posts every now and then. Really kind of game-changing information for a lot of people. There's a lot of really cool guys. Most of the decent bodybuilders these days have podcasts. Most of them are switched on, smart, educated people these days. They're not just meatheads taking everything and anything, you know. So make sure you do your homework and, you know, just get a little base knowledge of things before you go diving in the deep end. You know, you're not going to go skydiving without a few skydiving lessons first. Oh, and Steve's ebooks, vigoroussteve.com. He's got a whole series of ebooks that he's just released. They're amazing. $20 a pop or something like that. Some of them cheaper, some of them a little bit more. Everything on these subjects that you need to know: training, diet, nutrition, anabolics, everything in so much detail with plans, protocols, the works. It's all there in these ebooks. So, you know, save yourself a lot of searching around, a lot of hours online. Spend $20, you know, and get all the information there in a massive ebook.
I got to say, you got it. You have to, that was a good pitch for Vigorous Steve.
I got him, man. He's helped me out so much. If I can put on 20 pounds in freaking 7 months and stay leaner than I was before, then he's doing something right.
When I met him in Thailand, he was so generous with his time with me. He talked to me for a long time. I basically explained to him completely the situation that I was in at the time and how I wanted to do bodybuilding, and I just wasn't sure where to go. Like, I was unsure about my direction in my life and like how it would all fit together. And he really like just did a deep dive into my life, put everything in the right place for me, gave me some really good advice. And I listened to exactly what he told me to do. And his advice, I'm not going to say it changed my life because it didn't change my life, but it set me on a slightly different path than I would have gone on just doing my own, decisions. And I feel like he's somebody that you can really trust with like asking him like, hey man, I'm not sure what to do. Like, where do I go from here? He has a very cerebral mind that can put all the pieces together for you and help you take the right path that you need to take. And that's like a very unique skill. And I think that's why a lot of people are really gravitating to his YouTube channel now, because it's about all different kinds of stuff. And he really just helps people piece the whole picture together. It's not just about, how much testosterone to take, but he really takes a very holistic approach when he's talking to somebody. And I appreciate that.
Yeah, he's very, very good at that. He's very good at making you realize, like I said before, like just filling in lots of blanks, whether it's to do with your life, your lifestyle, where you're going wrong, where you're doing things right. He's a very good guide in general, not just on diet and training and supplements. Just in general, he's a very good person just to follow and see how he does things. And it really puts a lot of things in perspective where it's like, okay, I just need to work a bit harder on certain things and put a slightly higher level of effort in with this, and this, and the results will come. He's a very no-nonsense guy, but also very understanding and aware of other people's lives and situations. And, and he's very good at managing that for different kinds of people, I think. At the same time, is still important that, no bullshit, just get the work done, no fluff, get it done. Yeah, absolute game-changing person in my life, for sure. Probably the number one game-changing, influential person directly with my life and my progress in the last couple of years, for sure. So, yeah, and I think you'll probably see him. I know he's working with more and more YouTubers and stuff now. He's putting in the hours there. It won't be long before you see him getting featured and things on some of these really big ones like the Fuad stuff. And, it's just bodybuilding because the name is growing and growing and growing, especially now he does like this last year. What he's managed to put online is insane, especially on YouTube. Like I've never seen someone put out so much volume of good information. It's incredible. So I think he'll be, a very highly respected coach, like we respect him, by a lot more people. So hopefully that his information does just naturally, organically get to everyone that needs it.
And I like that. I like the dynamic, and I don't want to keep you too much longer because we're coming on 2 hours, but I like the dynamic between like you guys, you know what I mean? Just on a personal level, because it's cool. Like there's like the coach and then there's like his athlete that's like pushing it, you know what I mean? And I feel like there's a lot of like cool in bodybuilding history kind of combinations like that where they work together for a long time and you see the athlete really growing with the coach. And I think that, it's kind of cool to see that. I feel like I don't really see, I would like to be a part of something like that too, but I don't really see myself as an athlete really, because I don't have like competitive aspirations at all, but I'm like jealous. But now that I started online coaching a few months ago, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm really enjoying coaching guys. And I think that I learned a lot from coaching, just from talking to Steve and listening to how he talks to people, like, and how he talks to you on YouTube. It's just like very, like you said, a coach needs to be somebody that like understands what the person's going through that you're talking to, understands how to fill in the gaps and stuff like that. So I think I'm really liking the coaching side more than like the athlete side, but I'm very young still, and I'm still trying to learn. That's why I want to get guys like you on and just
got to
talk
start
about
somewhere,
your
man.
experience and stuff.
You've got to start and learn. I mean, you can have all the knowledge and everything, but it's that real practical experience that kind of helps you like own your craft. Because everyone's got a different style. Every coach is different. They'll deal with clients in a very different way. Like Steve, for me, we're like good mates, but he's very much a mentor. You know, he's still very much Mr. Miyagi and Daniel-san, apart from he looks younger than me somehow.
Recently,
yeah. Yeah, so, but you know, you'll find that you have different kinds of clients. You'll have clients that you just kind of gravitate towards, and because they might have a very similar outlook on life or training as you do. So it's very easy to coach clients that you just kind of get a good rapport with. And then you'll have the clients that are just like, okay, I just need to treat this client like a job because they need a certain amount of attention, but like they need telling, they need direction, they need someone who's going to really sort of kick them up the ass. And then, so there's those kinds, and then there's the people where it's like, yo, high five, good job, you're killing it. Go away, do it again for another week. Tell me how it goes next week. And they'll send you progress pics and like we'll do a bit of banter, funny jokes, a few memes, and everything will be on point. And then you make the updates and stuff and adjustments to diet and training as necessary. You just kind of got some clients will just be like another mate online, another mate on your phone. And some clients will be, totally in the dark. You might hear from them like once every couple of weeks.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, where have you been? Like, did you go on holiday or something? And like, no, everything's fine. I'm good. I'm cool. Yeah, did this, made gains, strength's gone up, feel fine. I'm like, oh, okay. Let's add some more calories, crack on. And then they disappear again for like 2 or 3 weeks. I don't even know if these people half of the time there's clients. I don't even know if they're still clients or if they've given up or started. It's very difficult to keep checking in and managing with people. I'll give people like a time period. It's like, you need to check in with me by this time, because the chances are I'm going to be too busy dealing with check-ins to make personal phone calls to everyone to remind you to check in. So, put it in a diary and get it done. But some people just don't like the extra attention. They don't need it. They just need a plan, pointing in the right direction, and they're gone. They're off, and some people need daily attention. It's different. So it's all good. But Steve is very much there anytime I need him. Like, I try not to bother him too much, but he's always there. He'll reply every single time on point.
So do you feel like, I know you don't really like market yourself as a coach that much. It seems like you more post about your athlete, like your athletic, progress and stuff like that. Do you see yourself transitioning to being a coach full time, like after bodybuilding is over?
Maybe. I don't know when that would be. I don't have that end in sight. Right now, I'm just bodybuilding mode. My goals are nothing but to get on the stage. I enjoy coaching, but I'll keep my clients down to a limited number that I can easily manage. So I'm not, taking on more than I can handle or adding to my stress. Because it's not about the money. I do it because, the money's great. Extra little bit of income, but I get paid well by my job. So I coach because I like it. It gives me something other to focus on than just my normal job. Although I'm a coach in my normal job as well. It's a little bit different. Mm-hmm. It's a slightly different kind of, I don't know, it just feels different online than it does in the gym. Both have their positives and negatives. So I like having both different variations, but I enjoy it. But, and I think right now, unless I really had to, I don't think I would do it full time, just online. I mean, I like my schedule, my timetable, and my own goals are priority number one. Obviously my clients, they do get as much time as they need, but my own goals and that I want to keep that momentum going. So I don't see anything past bodybuilding right now. Now, don't get me wrong. I will have things set up and put in place for when that day does come. But right now, I don't even want to think about that.
Mm-hmm. All right, man. It's been a pleasure to have you on. Like, we got into everything that I wanted to get into. The stories super interesting, everything about China, and we got to see, you know, how'd you made all those gains. I think people will be let down. You know, I think they were hoping that you would tell them some crazy numbers, but you know,
some secrets.
You know, it is. I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of messages about Atlantis now, but you know, that's really not the thing at the end of the day. You know, it's really
No,
just
100% not.
It's really just been the lifestyle, the training hard, eating
lifestyle, you know, just that's it. It's the normal things that everyone hears all the time that they don't want to hear. Everyone's listening out for something different, you know? So, you know, with anything, I mean, it's just having the right guidance, sacrificing the right things as well, you know? It's I didn't just smoothly transition into this kind of lifestyle and everything fell into place. I had to drop everything. There's a lot of things I had to give up and a lot of things I had to sacrifice, including my entire previous life, you know, in a different country, my family, friends, and everything, to put myself in a place where, you know, it's more of a reality for me, and I'm able to not only afford to be a bodybuilder, just kind of be in a space where I can be very focused on it without distractions. And so yeah, it's definitely something that's having that lifestyle here has definitely been a massive reason why I never went home. I still haven't gone home in 6 years. I haven't been back to the UK. I'm too in the zone. I'm too much in the zone, and I'm terrified to leave the zone, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I think for people, it's just a case of just finding a rhythm, finding a timetable that you can really stick with, finding a diet that works for you, a workout plan that is challenging with not too much fluff, and it's progressive, and don't be scared to rest more. Recovery has been a huge game changer, Extra recovery has been, like, you wouldn't believe, game changer. And I think so many people out there, unfortunately, are like, fuck that, I rest when I'm dead, you know? Rest day is chest day. It's like, no, you know, it's like, come on. So, you know, prioritize the right things you should be prioritizing, and the results will come. And, you know, as far as supplements are concerned, less is more. Start simple. Give yourself, you know, if you set your ceiling too low straight away by taking a whole bunch of different shit you don't know about, where do you go from there? You can't. There's nowhere to progress. You've killed yourself off before you've even started. So, you know, start small. Be safe. Do your homework. Seek good professional guidance. Get your blood work done. Be a good bodybuilder. Be a smart bodybuilder. And hopefully you'll do well. I mean, obviously, it's like me preaching like I'm some old veteran pro. Not at all. I'm just getting started. But like I said before, I've had very, very good guidance, and I've learned some very, very good things that I'm very happy I have in mind as I do start my bodybuilding career. So if I can pass that on, I will.
A lot of people that listen, you know, might not be so even as far along as you know, been training a long time. So it's useful advice. Any final words where to find you if people want to reach out to you for coaching or just to get to know you any better?
Yeah, sure. I'm pretty active, fairly active on Instagram most of the time. It's just Aaron Burke, BuiltbyAB. BuiltbyAB. AB stands for Aaron Burke. So yeah, I kind of ripped that off of Jordan Peters. I liked his trained by JP thing. And I was thinking, I like that. How can I steal that? So I just came up with BuiltbyAB. Yeah, coaching, like I said, I don't really promote the coaching and things like that on Instagram. I just let it organically grow. I've got enough clients. I don't need to be doing all these, you know, too much advertising and super sales and, you know, print and play 12-week challenge programs. I'm not interested in any of that. I like good clients that work hard, and I'll give you the time. And, you know, just word of mouth usually gets me enough clients. So I don't really post a lot of stuff on Instagram as far as that's concerned, but maybe I'll start doing that a bit more, just so people can kind of see what I am doing with my clients. Most of it's just me flexing in a bathroom mirror, or eating chicken and rice with a tiny shovel, or you know, lifting weights until I die. So if you like watching that kind of stuff, just meat and potatoes bodybuilding kind of page, then come and check me out on Instagram. We got the Muscle Nomads podcast on YouTube. We're going to be starting to film again for that soon. We've been very, very quiet with it recently, just because Steve has just had so much going on with his channels and other collaborations. So for sure, go and check out Vigorous Steve, the guy we've been talking about a lot. Invaluable information. It's all there. We'll be doing more podcasts soon for the Muscle Nomads channel. And yeah, prep is going to start at the end of February. Going to take about, a month or two just to clean out, get healthy, just TRT for a while, and then start prep. And we'll go balls in and kick some ass and chase that pro card. So that's the plan. I'll be updating more and more, and probably we'll do a lot more Muscle Nomads podcasts and stuff throughout prep, just to keep people updated and follow the journey if they want to.
All right, man. Well, there you guys have it. I'm super excited to see the prep, and I'm going to be tuning into Muscle Nomads. I want to ask you when that was coming back. I'm going to be the first guy there listening. All right, man. It's been a pleasure. I'm going to stop the recording.